How's it going, Song of Ice and Fire fans? Grant from Cats Miniatures bring you the next episode of our Season 6 changes, where we take a deep dive into the new Season 6 updates for each house individually. And in this episode, I'm joined by the Queen of Marine himself, James. How's it going, James?
Very well, thanks, Grant. How are you?
Right, I think, mate. I'm right. I'm right. It's Friday. Obviously, we should be at the Invitational right now, but life didn't align properly, so we couldn't do that. So, good luck to all the UK guys. Well, it's good luck to everyone at the tournament, but good luck to all the UK guys playing out for the World Team Tournament in a minute. As things you, how you been? All right.
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well.
Awesome, awesome. Let's get stuck straight into this change, mate, because we got dervishes. Fucking hell, someone's got something on their mind. Um, let's get stuck into these because we've got quite a few changes for the uh, House Targaryen, which is quite nice. Before we get stuck properly into the changes, when I do these episodes, obviously me and you could do a couple of these because we're regulars on the channel, so it'll be quite repetitive. But we're going to go over what the changes mean, like the overall changes mean for House Targaryen, the bigger, wider rule changes, and what you think and how it affects how Targaryen's going to play. And obviously there are three rules changes. The first being no neutral commanders now. So how do you think that affects House Targaryen?
To be quite honest, I don't think it makes an awful lot of difference. See, Dario is already available to Targaryens, so that's pretty good.
Are you a little
Um,
bit sad though you can't take neutral Dario now instead of the other one?
um, Slightly. Not gonna lie, the neutral Dario cards were slightly better than the Targaryen ones, but it's one of those things, isn't it? And I don't think that either Roose or Vargo really kind of slotted into the Targaryen kind of matrix, as well as what your other commander options are. So I think that it doesn't really affect House Targaryen that much.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't tend to run that many neutral commanders when I ran Targaryens. I think we've got, obviously Targaryens have got this really cool mechanic where you're taking four cards from your commander into your tactics deck, and 9 times out of 10 it's actually a really cool or much better option to take a commander that's tailored a little bit further to what you want the list to do, rather than take those neutral commanders. It was nice to run them eventually, and he got you the little money bag on stats, but yeah, as far as neutral commanders in Targaryens go, I don't think it's a massive loss for Targaryens, where it's a much bigger loss for some of the other factions. Um, the
No,
sec, Gone.
particularly, looking at Vargo, right? Requiring you to kind of take bloody mama units, and I don't think the Zorses were favourable as a 6-point light cavalry over taking Screamers, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, yeah, I say they had play. It's just I think it's going to have as much impact as it has on some of the other factions, maybe. And obviously, the second rule is the double one always doesn't always pass, and double six. The double six doesn't always pass. Double one doesn't always fail now. The other way around, right? What way round is it?
Double one always fails.
Yeah, double one
Double
always
six
fails.
always passes.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it. That's it. I'm glad we've done loads of these, so I'm repeating my stuff and still getting it fucking wrong. Um, how do you think that affects the game?
Well, obviously there are three models in the Targaryen army that are going to be pretty sad about that. But it's fine. It is what it is. See, the main effect is the dragons, right? But
Yeah,
it's fine. It'll happen. One in, I don't know, whatever the statistics are, that you roll a double one and you roll a 3 on the D3 and your dragon takes 3 wounds. It's just one of those things,
mm,
isn't it? You,
yeah,
you can't do anything about that. But I think overall, I think it's a really good change to the game, because it stops some of those units putting silly morale boosts on you, so then you're taking no damage at all. So actually, I think it's an all round change that I think is a good idea.
yeah, yeah. We spoke to Kajo yesterday, and he sort of felt that the obviously that he doesn't like the element of luck that dictates the fact that a double one and double six could affect the game that much, when it should be that if you've built a list to sort of push that numbers up or give a strong morale that it should be a given. But I mean, people play in different ways, right? I quite like the fact that the thematic choice of you could have a unit that are doomed to die through panic and do stand their ground. It makes for them really cool cinematic moments on the tabletop, which is it's the reason we play the game, right?
Yeah, and I think at the end of it, it is still a dice game, and there's always an element of luck. And for those reason, you said that it's nice on those ones where gonna fail this unless I roll a double six. There you go, you get boxcars and you're happy. And then you've got I've got a dire wolf here. He's never gonna fail. You roll the double one, he takes the last wound that he's got left, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally think it's a good change, but
Yeah.
different people have different opinions.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And obviously the third and final change, and it's quite a large one. And I think this change will dictate where this game now goes. It's the 4 points of attachments allowed in every single list that can only be spent on the attachments. It has to be in faction rather than neutral. I think this is a really good change. I was talking to a friend earlier about it, and we were talking about the fact that it allows you to run the stuff that you wouldn't run before, because now it's not costing you anything. So we're getting these really cool characters that you don't see ordinarily in the competitive scene now rolled into lists just because you can. I've been writing start lists with Rob's commanders and Rob's guard in it and stuff, and a Targaryen list with some really cool stuff that we're going to see in a minute. But what do you think about this new 4 point extra attachment bonus we get now?
So I think there are pluses and minuses both sides, right? So yes, I completely agree. I really like the fact that now you can add loads of characters into the game. They don't cost you anything, so you can add loads of theme to your army, and you can play all the cool characters we all love and get them in. From a list building perspective, thinking about competitive gaming, it is quite difficult sometimes when you're list building to be able to get enough combat units to be able to fill out all your attachment slots.
Yeah.
So I think that is a challenge that some factions more than others are going to really struggle with. Some factions easy, and we're going to look at some of those in this video. I think, but other factions were going to really struggle to flesh out the full 4 points worth of attachments.
Yeah.
The other thing is some factions have significantly better choices of attachments to take in faction than other factions do. So I don't think the balance is quite there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, looking at list building, which is really interesting, which has been quite a hot topic for discussion, is the potential change in we'll call it the meta for the kind of 4-3 versus the 5-2 in
Yeah.
terms of combat units versus NCU choices. Because this list building style is forcing you to take more combat units, which has never been the case, really, has it?
No.
Generally speaking, competitive gaming has always been 3 NCUs, and then you build your list over there. You either go for 5 lower point activations, or you go for sort of 4 more elites, and you either get a 7 or an 8. That way, with 3 NCUs as a staple. Some factions play okay with 2, like we see Eddard 6 and Tyrant at 6 points. Difficult to get 3 that way, unless you really want to go for it. But other than that, generally 3 4 point NCUs has always been the way, and I think this kind of deters you from doing that because you need more combat units to get the attachments in, right? So interesting.
Yeah.
It will open up a lot of different choices, and now we've got maybe a bit more variation where you're going to see a lot more 5-2 playing into 4-3,
Yeah.
and seeing how that kind of plays out. So yeah, no, I think list building wise, it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
There will be some challenges, but I'm sure we'll all work it out.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, sweet. Well, let's get in some of these cards in. So first up, we have Barristan Selmy the Bold and Jorah Mormont, 2 commander attachments that have now changed. So obviously the changes here are Barristan's Knightly Vow has changed. It now the plus one to hit now is if your opponent doesn't control the swords rather than you controlling the swords. We're seeing a lot more of this in this update. That that it's more about what your opponent doesn't control rather than what you do control. So that's quite nice to see that. And also, Jorah Mormont has now got the new improved ambush, and I'm a massive fan of this. I think this can be quite a powerful ability coming out the gate for this season. But how do you think these two changes affect these two commanders?
Yeah, so I really like the mechanic for if your opponent doesn't control X, you get Y.
Yeah.
Because it rewards tactical play on for both players, right? It's right, I need to think if I need to block this zone from my opponent to stop their stuff being really good.
Hmm.
So you need to, as an opponent, play ahead of this, and then on the turns that you need to control it as the controlling player, you need to be like, well, I need this zone to get this stuff to switch on to make my army better.
Yeah.
So I really like that as a mechanic. So ambush is, I mean, it's always been a kind of like a meh ability. It's a nice to have when it works, but it's on some really odd units. Obviously, Jorah being a cavalry unit, and his card that the name just completely just
Feign
escaped my
maneuver.
head. That's the one.
Yeah.
Obviously, that works really well. And in a cavalry heavy army, then again it works really well. But then we'll look at another unit in a minute, which may find it a little bit more trickier to get ambush off. There's a few infantry units where it kind of struggles, but now I think with this change, the times you get ambush off, it will be worth it, and the tactical reward for getting into the right position is also worth it. So it might change the way you play these style of units.
Yeah. I've always been a massive fan of the Jorah Commander. When they changed the solo attachment, I started running him a lot more. Um, so I was already running him, and I think just the ambush, the additional token on ambush is going to be really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to getting to run him out. And you say, with Missandei guaranteeing you potentially faintly maneuver as an NCU, and then being able to just quite early on put those three tokens out with a flank or in a rear switch is really cool. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah, he's just that's just going to amp up him in the Dothraki veterans, right?
Yeah,
As a choice,
yeah,
because they've gone from being really good with him to being amazing.
yeah, for sure.
It's going to hit really hard on the turns that you get a faintly maneuver with the veterans with all the dice and all the tokens. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. And next up we have Miri Mazdur, the attachment, not the NCU, and Dario Naharis, Reckless Mercenary, which is just the attachment version, not the commander version. So the change here. So there's been a change to Maegai's healing. There's also been an addition of stubborn tenacity onto Miri Mazdur, which is allowing you to, when you pass panic test, to deal a wound. And Dario Naharis now gets Dauntless, which is really nice. And I quite like it as a fluff choice for Dyer as well because he's supposed to be quite a what's the word I'm looking for? Quite a
Brave.
just amazing. um, yeah, cool. Yeah, do you want to go over these changes? We see obviously you're a massive fan of Miriam's Door NCU, but will we see more of these in list now?
I mean, always thought Dario was a really good choice anyway. I think Reckless Strike was really good for 1 point.
It's even better for 0 points.
Regardless. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And so I think that Dauntless in an army that already has really good morale across the board, all bar a couple of things,
Yeah.
is brilliant. Like he is going to sit really nicely in Swordmasters now because you get the rerolls to get rid of your ones.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you are now going to get crit blow. Yes, you already have precision, but you're getting the crit blow for it, and you're going to do extra healing because they do already have heal 1 for opponents not controlling swords. So, yes, I think that'll be quite good. And so Miri's changes are really interesting. I think we might see more of her as an attachment. She suffers from the thing that her NCU is really, really good.
Yeah,
So you don't see as much of her as an attachment purely for that reason. And her NCU is so good that you wouldn't see her attachment. I think now you'll probably see probably an equal balance because her new version is pretty exceptional. Yeah, there'll be some times when you roll the 3 and a D3 and you're like, well, that kind of sucked. But then the other times you'll roll 2s and you'll be like, this is amazing. I'm going to play her all the time. So yeah, especially now in the game where there's a lot of condition tokens and a way to get condition tokens out. That the value of removing condition tokens is really big. So I think we'll probably see quite a lot more of her.
yeah. And what we're not showing on screen as well is that Miri does ignore attachment restrictions as well. So obviously, with the additional points we get to spend on attachments now, we can actually spend. We don't have to have loads of units to be able to spend those attachment points because Miri will allow us to, double up on an attachment as well, which is obviously quite nice for us for that rule. It may come clutch when we get to situations where we have that extra point, can't spend it. So why not just chuck her in the unit?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Nice. Next change we have Bloodriders. So we have these three Bloodriders and obviously Ricaro. We'll get to Ricaro in a minute. So the only changes they've gone to 1 point each. Um, I don't know what there is to say about that. I mean, I've been loving writing lists with just, I had a list with Khal Drogo in veterans and 4 units of Blood Riders, or with 4 units of sorry for its Blood Riders. That's cheating, Grant. 4 units of Screamers with Blood Riders in them, which is fucking awesome. But yeah, 1 point Blood Riders. Thumbs up.
Wow. um, what incredible value.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, all of them are really good. Some of them were quite difficult to justify at 2 points, I think, generally.
yeah,
Um, but they were worth it. They still have abilities that are worth 2 points on their card,
yeah,
which is why they were priced the way they are. And now they're 1 point and potentially free,
yeah,
which is insane. The downside is I don't think we will now see Blood Riders as a unit, which thematically is a little bit sad because thematically they're really cool.
yeah,
And actually, I obviously played a lot of Cold Drogo and swear by playing the Blood Rider unit as a personal preference.
hmm
And the fact that now the better choice is probably to take them as attachments is a little bit sad, but it's one of those things, right? I don't think you'll see. I think you'll see Khal Drogo in Screamers, and then it's Ricaro, isn't it? He's got Sentinel and Elusive Escape, right?
yeah. So we've got him on the next screen. I can bring him
Yeah,
up.
that's it. So,
Yeah,
so I think build wise, you'll probably see Ricaro in Veterans, and then the other three Blood Riders and Drogo in Screamers, and that will be a pretty horrific combination. That's
yeah.
going to be a tough list to beat when you can't weaken anything, and they've got loads of really cool abilities.
Yeah. I think, just being able to put a Blood Rider in a unit for no points, and that unit just cannot become weakened. Like it's not, you can't expend weakened tokens. It just cannot become weakened. That's incredible. And some of these other abilities are great as well. Like Fuel by Slaughter, we know Fuel by Slaughter was a great ability. Blood Riders, Screamers are probably going to be sticking up wounds, so they're going to be healing. Um, Coal Hollow with battle scars. We talked on the faction deep dive about the fact that out of all the battle scars changes, this was the worst one because he's never going to have two additional ranks to get all of them. But I'll take this now for 0 points. Vicious, or can reroll your attack dice. Highest you get drop down to a rank, you can roll your highest attack die value and reroll them dice. It's such a good 0 point attachment. It's incredible. Um, yeah, and I'll put up Ricaro as well. So, this is what Ricaro was. The changes that he's gone to 1 point, but there's no points and getting Sentinel and Elusive Escape. Keeping in mind that Elusive Escape pairs so well with the Dothraki veterans when they've been able to swift retreat and stuff. Yeah, Ricaro, he's always been my favourite Blood Rider, but it was hard to justify at 2 points, although I did justify him quite a few times at 2 points. At 1 point, at 0 points, I'm going to find it hard not to take him now.
The downside to this change is, why now would you ever take either of the co-options?
Yeah.
You probably won't.
Yeah.
So they probably won't see play at all. It might do in a really niche kind of way, but why would you take the abilities that they've got up for their 1 point when you could take one of these guys?
Yeah.
You're not going to, are you?
Yeah. Well, the only time you would is if you've got the Blood Rider unit rather than them as attachments, right?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, you might want to drop one of them, and maybe put in the Outrider code to give you a bit more, give you your disrupt that you can then send 2 units in and make them harder to hit. That might be your only option, maybe.
Yeah.
But I would say 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to take all 4 of these or a combination of them with something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other good point is, from a thematic viewpoint, you're probably going to see less Hedge Knights in Targaryens now.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Just keep it in faction, living the dream.
That's it.
Nice. Yeah, cool. Really good change, Blood Riders. Really happy for the Blood Rider unit to be able to get the attachments out as well now, because they're great models as a unit. They look great, but getting them into more units and actually as just like an additional bonus, just as a boost for the screamers, we're going to see more screamers now, and the screamer sculpts are really nice. So it'd be nice to see them used with some Blood Riders. Next up, we have the Brazen Beast Captain and Marsland. So a couple of changes here. It's mostly point costs. They both go down to 1 point at 1 point. But the Brazen Beast Captain loses Iron Resolve for that 1 point drop. But actually, we spoke before when these were released, and I actually really liked them at 2 points. I couldn't really justify them for 2 points, but those 3 abilities were really nice. At 1 point, potentially 0 points. Insight, rolling your highest attack available, vicious and furious charge, punching out the vulnerable is nice. And Marsland dropping down to 1 point, potentially 0 points, now allows you to run a fully unsullied army with all the really cool attachments with Grey Worm Commander, Marsland Unsullied Captain, running your Unsullied Captains as well. We have the non-named captains. It's gonna make for some really nice thematic battles. But what do you think about these 2 changes?
So I really like both of them. So I think the thing I like now about the Brazen Beast Captain is he's much more sensibly costed for what you want him for. I think again at 2 points he was quite hard to justify. I think if you were paying 2 points for an attachment, you were probably taking a Blood Rider or you were taking Grey Worm.
Yeah.
At 1 point, I think he's way better costed. You'll probably see more of him, and he still synergizes really well with the Brazen Beast unit.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And Marcellin, I think, is a great change. I think we will definitely see a lot more of him. Great in Unsullied builds. Obviously, already got good morale, but boosting that to make that a little bit better, to make sure that if you roll badly, then at least you have a much better chance of passing your tests, and more healing.
Yeah.
Which is something the Targaryens really struggle with. You're now going to see quite a lot of Dauntless in a few different places. Obviously, now we've got Dario as well that you can throw in there. You've got Marcellin, Swordmasters have it built in now. So you've got Miri. You've got a few more ways to get some wounds back across the table from core abilities, rather than relying on the tactics board. Or that's pretty much it. Yeah. So yeah, I really like this.
Yeah. Morale 3 Unsullied. What is all that about?
Yeah, and healing.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. Next up we have. So I'll put both these together because the change affects both units. There's a third unit, but there is more to the third unit, which we'll go over. So we've got Darren Harris Stormcrow Captain, which is the commander version, and we have the Stormcrow Mercenaries. The change here is to motivated by coin. So as you can see, this is reliant. This allows you to attack off the bags. We have seen a drastic reduction in free attack actions or proxy attack actions across the board for the entire game. Sorry, it's getting late. I'm slurring my words. It's not a drink, I promise. It's now changed to this. So now it reads that while your opponent does not control the bags, assess again, we're looking at your opponent not controlling the bags rather than you controlling the bags. Although improved armaments does obviously help you if you have the bags. But when performing a melee attack, this unit may re-roll melee attack dice, and when this unit activates, it may restore 1 wound, which gives you a little bit more healing, as you were saying a minute ago, something that is a little bit bonus for the House Targaryen, but also allows you to re-roll attack dice, which is really nice. I really like it. I think it's a great change motivated by Quinn. In when we take into account what they're trying to achieve with the game, they're trying to reduce the attacks. Obviously, the extra attacks off the bags was always good, was always fun. It's hit Bronn a lot harder than it's hit everybody else. But how do you feel about the change to motivated by coin?
Yeah, I think it's a good change. I think the general reduction of all these free attack actions across the game is probably a good thing. For a variety of reasons, but that's probably a conversation for another day. Because we go into some detail about it. But yeah, I think I don't think you were really using in this particular example. I don't think you're really using Stormcrow mercenaries for the free attack action off of the bags anyway.
Yeah,
that's not the reason that you're taking the mercenaries. And now that they've got re-rolls, I think is way better, because hitting on 4, that 50-50 chance that you just completely whiff all of your attacks, now gives you that chance to to roll that back. And their morale is mediocre, so you might fail a few tests here and there, and then that extra little bit of healing helps them bring that back in line. So I think it's a really good change generally for this unit. And obviously with Dario, you can as commander, you can put him wherever you want to give something else re-rolls and healing. I do think it gives him less value in putting him in Swordmasters, which is kind of where you were putting him before. But it just might mean you now put him in Pikeman instead.
Yeah.
Because Pikeman with rerolls is pretty good.
Rerolls Sundering with improved armaments. I think he's
Yep.
I think that is his home now. Will be the Pikeman.
Yep. Yeah, which would be nice because it gives you a bit more of a varied Unsullied build rather than just going Swordmasters, and more Swordmasters.
More Swordmasters all the time. But yeah, some good changes there. Then we have Stormcrow Dervishes. Now, obviously, these have got the same change to Motivated by Coin, but they also get the brand new Ambush, which is the additional token now. So instead of just putting out the 2 tokens, they put out all 3. I have been on a quest to make these work. I still can't make them work. Do we think this might be the day Stormcrow Dervishes become great?
No.
Well,
all right. No, actually, there is a but to this. So, if you're playing Jorah Commander,
yeah,
yes, I think there'll be a hidden gem because of Fainting Maneuver. Definitely.
yeah.
Because the problem we all know with infantry units is getting them, yes, okay, they're speed 6, but getting them into the right position to get flanks on is not as easy as what it sounds. It can be done, but it might be that you have to roll an opponent's flank before you get the option to get those charges lined up, and that might be too late in the game that actually ambush is going to make any difference.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think so you've got Fainting Maneuver in there, you can get straight in on the flanks, you can retreat out. You've got lots of cool different attachment choices that you can put in this unit to give them some extra punch. I think you've got a lot of good choices with them now in that particular build. Otherwise, I'm still not convinced that it makes a lot of difference.
Such a shame, man,
Personally,
because they're such great miniatures. I just want to see them played and want to see them working. Um, what sort of attachments do you think you're going to run in these guys? Will these be taking up one of your 0 points attachments?
I personally I would go Belwas.
Yeah,
Battle Scars.
Battle Scars. Yeah,
Yeah, for the vicious.
yeah, nice.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's probably the way I would go. But then there's some other really cool choices. You've got Grey Worm Steel.
Yeah,
Maybe even Marcellin might be a good option for them. Dario. There's lots. I think it depends on how you want to play them, but I think they've got a lot of really good options now that you can put in there.
awesome, awesome. Um, next up, we have pit fighters. Now, obviously, we've already spoken about pit fighters. We already quite like them. They've now gone down to 5 points. Now this is and 5 points with absolutely no change to any of their rules. They're literally exactly the same. They just dropped a point. Now I was using them at 6 points, so I'm definitely going to use them at 5 points. Um, yeah, I mean, do you want to talk a bit about the pit fires being 5 points now?
Yes, love them. Love them before. I think the only problem that I found with them is they die really easily. And again, we spoke about how the faction doesn't have a lot of healing in it.
Hmm.
Um, and the problem to make these guys really tick, you have to have some kind of healing mechanic in your army to keep them going. Otherwise, you're just taking loads of damage from a Pitfire Rage, and then you take a lot of damage back because their saves are not very good. So I found they put out a lot of damage, but they also took quite a lot back, and they died quite early in the game.
Yeah,
So I was using Skahars in them, Fuel by Slaughter to keep them going,
yeah,
and now he potentially could be free, and these guys are 5 points. Yes,
yeah. Five
I would say
points.
that if you're wanting an infantry unit in your Targaryen army, this would be my starting point.
Well,
5 points, brilliant,
well,
really good.
you've heard it, yeah. James's top pick is pit fighting. I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
honestly, they're really good.
yeah. Well, you say 5 points with pit fighter rage, with fighters armaments, unyielding, and fuel by slaughter is He has another rule, doesn't he? Hasn't he got a furious charge as well?
No, he's got insight.
Insight. Well, wow. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of rules for 5 points.
Yeah. Yeah, so the trick is you can't use Pit Fighter's Rage and Insight, but at the point where you've taken enough damage, you don't really want to use Pit Fighter's Rage anyway. You then go to highest attack dice and vicious.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, yeah, he's a really good pick to go in there. But again, if you want the healing and you don't have the 2 points to put him in there, you could put Miri in there
mm, yeah,
as a nice 1 point to give you a couple of wounds back.
yeah.
Um, Marcellin, the list goes on now. We've got all these dauntless guys sort of popping up. So
Mm,
yeah, lots of options. But yeah,
awesome.
I think they were really good at 6. The only reason I can see them, the reason they've dropped them is because nobody's playing them. I think purely just because there are other choices or other styles within the Targaryen faction that are just more popular than playing infantry builds.
Yeah,
So you don't see them. I don't think it's that they're a bad unit. It's just there are better choices.
yeah. It's 6 points. They're competing with Outriders, Screamers. So it's at 5 points. At least there's a reason to take them now, outside of cavalry, right? Um,
Yeah, definitely.
cool. The next up we have the one NCU change for House Targaryen. Illyrio Mopatis, mate, they have changed him more times than I've changed my underwear. He cannot they can't find a comfortable place for him. But um, this is a very minor change. It's now obviously he can twice per game he can change the effect for heal free and make an enemy weaken, but he can now use any token on that, so it becomes just one condition token rather than a weakened. I quite like the fact it was weakened. I'm probably still most of the time going to be using the weakened token out of the 3 tokens when I'm healing, because if I'm healing a unit, it's because they're in trouble. And if they're in trouble, I want whatever's hitting them to be weakened. But it does give you a lot of play. It gives you very much a toolbox NCU now to get you out of trouble, or just to push that extra bit of damage through when you need him to. How do you feel about this change to Illyrio?
Yeah, I mean, it's very minor. I think the only, again, I totally agree with what you're saying, that in the situation we were using him before, it's probably because, again, you're in trouble and you want that weaken token.
Yeah.
I think he works really well with dragons, purely because, you're debuffing your army, your opponent when they hit you back.
Yeah.
The benefit that I might see from the token option is panic when you're playing Queen of Marine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might be quite useful. But other than that, I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference to his pick rate. He'll get picked because he heals 3 wounds twice a game, not because of the condition token he gives out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool. Okay, sweet. And obviously no points changing of him. Next up, we have the tactics deck changes. So there's no change to the basic deck. And if I'm honest, I think pretty much 99% of people expected there to be some sort of tinker with the Targaryen deck. So it's a little bit disappointing not to see that happen. But we have seen a change to 2 cards, which are on screen now: Assault Orders and Sustained Assault. Assault Orders has been hit by the overwhelming overarching changes that we're seeing to the game, where the additional attacks are being stopped or diluted down quite heavily. It's only we do not so now that allows you to have the extra attack at full ranks. And sustained assault. I'll put the new cards up on the screen now. So sustained assault obviously has gone from being highest attack die value and rerolls if it's your commander, to if you begin the turn engaged, you get the highest attack die value and rerolls. If it targets your commander's unit, Barristan's unit, the defender also becomes vulnerable. So it gives you a little bit more. Sustained Assault's always been a bit of a meme card. This will give it a little bit more pinch when you need it to. And obviously, Assault Orders is now an attack action, but at your lowest rank. If it targets Khal Drogo, you can charge, but again, lowest rank. So first of all, let's get your thoughts on the changes to Assault Orders and how you feel what they're trying to achieve with the less attacks being prominent in the game.
So obviously I think it's a change that's probably going to be welcomed generally within the community because of how oppressive assault orders can be, especially when you're putting something in an elite unit that throws 7 dice, and then you're potentially getting 3 attacks in a turn and things like that. I think it just mitigates the auto killing kind of situation you potentially were having.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to affect Drogo? Probably not as much as what it will do to other factions, because the main reason that you're probably taking it with him is for the free charge, because he's in a speed 6 cavalry unit, right?
Yeah.
With things like overrun. So you might just be a bit more choosy when you're going to use assault orders than when you were doing it before. You might be lining up to, getting a screamers unit to soften something up, and then you get Drogo to go and finish him off to play overrun and things like that. Because the difference with him is that because he has a duelist, whatever he charges, you will always do at least 1 wound, right?
Yeah.
And you will always force a panic test. Whereas some other commanders with assault orders might whiff their dice and then they do nothing. So depending on what kind of unit in. The downside is, if we talked about builds earlier, if you're moving him into something like Screamers, you're only rolling 4 dice.
Yeah.
But if you keep him in Bloodriders, you're still rolling 6.
Yeah.
So that might be the other argument we have to see Bloodriders as a unit still, is because it makes assault orders better.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that will pay off yet. I need to play some games to work out what the best combination for that is, but I don't think it's going to make an awful lot of difference to him.
Yeah.
You're mainly using it for charging. You're going to do an auto wound. It might be that you want to, you might use it to pin a unit down because you don't want them to countercharge getting into you, and then maybe you want them to run away, and then you still got to activate. There's loads of other reasons you might want to do it tactically. So yeah, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that you've hit it now on the head there. I think because it's the same with Tully Cavaliers. Like people are sort of lamenting the loss of assault orders, but Tully Cavaliers are still rolling 8 dice if you charge them for assault orders. It's still a lot of dice, and I think with Bloodriders, they're still rolling 6 dice on one rank, and they're still effectively rolling 7 dice because you're getting one automatic wound from Khal Drogo, plus your 6 rolled dice on top of that as well. I don't think it's going to be as detrimental to those units as it will be to perhaps some of the other units that we obviously see assault orders in Victorian's decks. Obviously now lowest rank for a lot of Greyjoys may only be 4 or 5 dice. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, but we're still forgetting, there are other things to it. So you've got Blood of the Dragon, gives you an extra dice.
Yeah.
Greyjoys get their +1 attack dice with pillage token. So I think on the face of it, yes, we're looking, lowest. Well, that's a bit rubbish. But actually, I think there's quite a lot of other mitigating factors to get additional dice here and there that will actually make this change not as big as what I think people probably look at it on its face value.
Yeah. And sustained assault. You now taking Barry as your second commander?
Well, I really like Barry anyway.
Well,
As a
Barry,
commander choice.
what Barry and Selmy, not Barry the Builder. That did come around did your extension for you.
Well, either or, really.
Good old Barry.
No, I do. Barristan's a weird one. He's not bad as a commander. He's not bad. Does this make him a pickable choice? Maybe. It's not the card that defines him. I can't remember the name of it. It's the one that gives you Sundering +1 to hit.
Boldness, legendary boldness.
Yeah, but that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the card that kind of defines him, and obviously the change to Night Val is a little bit better now as well. So maybe we will see him a bit more. I think it's quite difficult because I think a lot of the Targaryen commanders are all kind of on level par with each other.
Yeah.
I think it will come down to playstyle. It just depends on how you want to play the game, and you pick that commander that kind of suits you a little bit better. But in terms of power level, Drogo is still up there. Jorah is probably now up there as well with Ambush.
Yeah.
And then Queen of Marine, they're probably your top 3 picks, and then all the rest of them are probably all kind of the same kind of level.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. We'll probably see him more than we did before. He'll be probably more enjoyable to play now because when you draw a sustained assault, you won't be so sad.
Yeah, for sure. And a great character in the books as well. So it's nice to see those characters rolled out onto the tabletop.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that the detriment with sustained assault was you get rerolls. Well, 9 times out of 10, you would probably take him in an unsullied Swordmaster build, and you already have rerolls, and sustained assault was even less useful.
Yeah.
But now the vulnerable token's probably quite big for them.
Yeah.
Especially if you're throwing lots of attack dice, 8, 9 dice with the Swordmasters rerolls, and now you're putting out a vulnerable token as well. I think that's quite big.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
It's nice. It's good to have options, right?
Absolutely.
So that's all the changes for House Targaryen done. So very quickly then, James, before we let you go off into the sunset, well, it's dark outside, into the moonlight. Obviously, be careful out there, mate. Just be careful crossing roads and stuff. But when you get out there, how overall then changes to House Targaryen in season 6? How are you feeling about him?
Yeah, I think they're going into a really strong position. I think the Bloodrider changes is massive. I think it's really going to define the faction going forwards. I think we're going to see a lot more cavalry builds of different shapes and forms.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see some more infantry builds because of the changes to the 2 points to 1 point attachments. So you'll see some more infantry units in there, especially in pit fighter check. So I think overall, I think there's some really good changes here to see a bit of more of a shake-up of the internal faction balance and the way that they're played.
Yeah.
How does it compare to other factions? We'll see. I think the Bloodriders are probably up there in terms of some of the better attachments in the game. So I think they'll do pretty well.
And also, I always ask all my guests, and again, we're going to do a couple of these, but I always ask my guests. So outside of Targaryens, then season 6, what has been the biggest wow moment for you, looking at other factions and changes and what they can now do? What sort of really got your eye as to something that could be quite powerful?
Powerful, yeah, not bad.
Powerfully bad.
All right. I'm gonna, as I've got your captive attention. I'm gonna say the best change out of this patch is the change to Berserker tactics, right?
Yeah, but see, you say that, I don't know that
No, actually, it's not.
I don't know
It's
that it's a
not.
nerf.
It's worse. It's not. It's worse.
Yeah, yeah,
I I genuinely think it's worse. Um, because now you've got Cavaliers with critical blow. They can
yeah,
take one wound and get critical blow, which is
yeah,
bonkers.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's just gonna. Yeah, I think I've discussed this at length for quite a few people now. But when people get angry at the Berserker tactics, Tully Cavalier stuff, I think you need to really assess the whole package. And I've said it quite a lot in the chats and stuff as well, that you need to assess the whole package, because it's not just the Berserker tactics that made them powerful. It's the healing, the dealing, and the Winterfell Garden. I can't believe that the Winterfell Garden hasn't been changed, but that's a discussion for my Stark overview. But yeah, so you think that's the best change then, Berserker tactics?
No, no. I tell you what, the best change is they've looked at all the attachments and all the cool characters that we really like across the game, and they have found a viable way to include more character, more fluff, more flavor into the way that the game is played, and I think that's really good. It's a really nice. It allows us to play the characters that we really like. We like about the IP, and that's really good.
Yeah,
Balance wise, have they got it right? Time will tell. There are some things that they probably should have changed. Some things that haven't been changed have been, left alone. Some of them good changes. Those are for other discussions. But I think the real big thing we need to focus on is that they have tried to instill a bit more theme into the game, which we're all playing a game for the IP is really great, right?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, we obviously we do play competitively. We run multiple tournaments where people are playing competitively, but it's the love of the IP that drives me to do more for the game, that drives us to do more for this game. Um, and to now be able to see some of these characters that you really wanted to include, but didn't do enough to impact the game for the points they were being played for, is really nice now, because you're going to see them play, because it's not costing you more points, so you might as well just take it. Well, as soon as this patch dropped, or as soon as this season dropped, I was writing Bloodrider lists, Dothraki lists with Daenerys and Miri Mazdur as your NCUs. That's a proper full Dothraki list. I was writing lists with Robb Stark Commander, with Rickard Karstark in Karstark's Loyalists, Great Number in Berserkers, Mage Mormont in She-Bears, just to give me that really cool Robb marching south army with all these attachments that before I never had the points to use, but now they're just, I've got spare points. Yeah, fuck it, I'll chuck them in. Let's go. And I think that's, for me personally, that's what I'm going to enjoy about this new season, is seeing these characters that we haven't seen potentially ever on the tabletop.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, I'm testing out some Brotherhood, and it's really cool now that you can include all the named characters. So it
Yeah,
really kind of gives you that Merry Men band kind of feel to them and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, and that's why we play it, right? And we all love including all the special characters. From the hobby side, I would say that most of us that are, painting stuff up, you put that little bit of extra effort into your characters, and now you get to see your hard work, on the tabletop. So
yeah,
I think it's a positive change.
definitely, definitely. And if I'm running Cold Drago, I'm definitely expert duelist hot pie.
Absolutely not. You can't. You can't. Why would you do that?
Mate, I'm rolling at a 6 just to take that bad boy out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Bless him.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for everyone for tuning in, listening to us talk about House Targaryen. It's been really enjoyable, James, as always. Thanks for joining me and talking through some experiences over the season 6 changes. Obviously, that will undoubtedly change over the next couple of weeks, couple of months, as the season 6 changes bed in and this new landscape sort of is revealed to us. Yeah. Cheers for coming on. Cheers for talking to us.
No, thanks for having me.
If you guys do like the video or enjoyed what we've been doing, please do like the video, share it to your friends. You know, maybe go in a house when having family dinner, just quickly put it on TV, just so they can watch it with us. And if you do feel it's had enough of an impact on you that you fancy subscribing, we do welcome more friends in the ECATS community, so do jump on board and click the little bell so that every time we post a new video, you get a notification because everybody loves notifications, I think.
We all love notifications.
Awesome. Okay, James. Cheers, join us, mate. I'll speak to you soon.